dead on 10:30, so I guess we should make a start. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening in today. I'm joined today by Phil Hobden from Futrli. So, and just a bit of housekeeping first. So, if you can hear on your computers, that's great. For those that are unable to, there is the option of listening on your telephones as well, which you should have had the instructions from previously. So with your confirmation email. So very briefly about myself, I'm Vipul Sheth. I'm a chartered accountant and chartered tax advisor. I trained with a firm in Worcester called Rabjohns, now part of Bishop Fleming. I was an auditor, went on to Ernst & Young, KPMG, and I started AdvanceTrack just over 15 years ago, back in 2003. This session is recorded and will automatically be sent to you. Should be in the next 24 hours. There's the chat and Q&A feature, so if anyone has got anything, please put it in your chat box. We'll try and answer as many questions live as we can. Okay, so that's when the mouse goes wrong. Okay, briefly, and this is just, we may go completely off piste. Introductions, I've done mine. I'll introduce Phil properly in a moment. Processes that work, don't work, how technology can really drive and develop cost-effective both bookkeeping and advisory services, how those services are being delivered. And I guess what lots of people want to hear about today, Phil, is how Futrli and the cloud products out there are able to get firms to monetize those services. Because that's always a challenge that we hear about time and again. So it'd be really good to get some input from you on that. So Phil, floor's yours. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Phil Hobden. I'm a senior strategic advisor here at Futrli, and also the UK sales team lead. So I am now leading the sales team here at Futrli. I've been with the business just over a year now, but my background is in banking, financial services, and before that, I was a business owner and ran a an okay, successful media company where we dabbled in kind of TV and film and bits and pieces. But I'm now with Futrli, and I'm now helping accountants in the UK and globally, and Futrli stretches globally, to introduce and make profitable advisory services. Advisory in that kind of speech marks, because what advisory is for one is different to anyone else. But I'll come on to that kind of later on down the line. I'll introduce Futrli quickly, just to give you a bit of background on us as a business. We were started in 2014. At the moment, we have over 30,000 users globally, with offices in Brighton, Sydney, and Melbourne. Weirdly, we're a UK-based company, so our app is designed and developed here in the UK. And the dev team sit in the room just behind where I'm talking to you guys today. But because the market is different over in Australia, we launched in Sydney and Melbourne. We launched in Australia first. So we launched over there, and then about 6 months later, we launched over here. We're a Zero preferred app partner, and we're also rated 5 stars on Zero and QuickBooks app stores as well. And as a very kind of highline, we are a forecasting and reporting platform. And no doubt we'll go into a little bit more detail exactly what Futrli can do and offer. But that's kind of, I guess, a little bit about me and a little bit about Futrli as a whole.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And because I've started this because it was done to me once on one of these. Phil, tell the audience something that most people don't know about you.
Oh, okay. So, well, everyone in the office knows about this, but probably outside, not so much. I play a sport called roller derby, which means that every weekend, and Google it, but every weekend I put on pads and roller skates and I skate around a track and get hit by other people. So roller derby is one of the UK's fastest growing sports. It's a sport that's all inclusive as well. So regardless of gender, age, sexuality, whatever, there's kind of a place for you in the sport. So it's a really interesting sport, and it really does kind of, it came from America many years ago, where actually it was a bit of a fake sport like pro wrestling, but now it's a proper sport. And next weekend, not this weekend, the weekend after, we host in Eastbourne, where I'm from, the world's largest and, up until last year, only outdoor roller derby tournament. So we take what is a relatively competitive and contact-driven sport, and then we play it on tarmac in 30-degree heat.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
That's why we're doing this now, because in 2 weeks usually I'm laying down and crying for a couple of days with
Okay.
There's something not many people know about me.
No, brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing. Okay, so I used this on one of my webinars recently, and I thought this was a really good place to kind of start, where there are firms, and this will represent very many firms, that they're in the old way of doing accounts, and their clients are, and they've got lots that are also in the new way of using cloud. So I compare sort of, in our world, analog, which is the paper-based or desktop-based work, and the cloud-based as the digital. And this was a guy who runs Lloyd's of London, where they've got loads of paper. And it's like you get the costs of both, but none of the benefits. And it's really about kind of making people realize that using technology, and in particular cloud, you get access to a much greater range of tools. So Phil, let's talk about, I guess, the challenges that firms have. One, about getting data, and then two, then how that data can be interpreted using tools like your own and many of the other cloud products out there, and say how then we can then drive that into advisory.
Yeah, data's such a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges we always get when we're talking about Futrli and we're presenting our product is that actually, what you get out of it is only as good as what you put in.
Yep.
Now, the exact analogy that I was taught many years ago in my early day sales training, because they're words I shouldn't use on a podcast or a webinar, but you put rubbish in and you get rubbish out. So the data's only as good as what you put in.
Yep.
And that's often where the challenge comes, because we know that sometimes we want that data there instantly, and we want that information there instantly, but the bookkeeping hasn't been done, or the invoice hasn't been posted, or there's something historical that hasn't quite got where it needs to be, and it's delaying everything, the accounts haven't been posted, and then that data's not there. How do you overcome that problem? There's a couple of different ways you can do that, and obviously we have a few solutions, but actually, I heard a really interesting thing on a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how for them, and obviously it's quite personal to them, but how for them accountancy was moving from being a monthly or a quarterly service where you could do bookkeeping on a monthly basis and deliver those reports on a monthly basis, to actually being something that's much more urgent now, where the need to do that is actually now weekly, or actually even daily, because that's how critical those decisions are becoming for businesses, that they need that information there so they can do it. They can make those decisions hourly sometimes.
Yeah.
And their vision of where accounting was going was actually, it's going away from monthly reporting, and soon monthly reporting will be a thing of the past, and it will be having that data at your fingertips, to be able to log onto a platform and see everything you need to make those business decisions.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there are a lot of our clients that are now using our daily bookkeeping service, and it bears out exactly what you say, that the need for that data and reliable data has never been greater, because in the past, as you say, sometimes you're buying a large piece of kit, or if you're a farmer, a big investment's a tractor or a combine harvester, and those are big decisions, and you're often making it with quite old data, and whereas now someone in that business could actually go into their online accounting portal, get some of the data, but equally using tools like your own to make some forecasts that actually, if we went and bought this and we had repayments of X, could we actually make the payments?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. When I was in asset finance years back, when I worked for a big multinational bank, I had a client, and he was a printing company. It's actually not a million miles away from where we are now, and he was he was a guy that would go to auctions every week.
Yeah.
And every week he'd turn up to an auction because he knew he could get a bargain on kit. He wouldn't necessarily know what he was going to use that kit for, or he wouldn't necessarily know where he would put it or what market it would open up. But he'd go, and sometimes he'd buy, he'd go there to buy a 10 grand printer. But actually, quite often he'd walk out of there with 150 grand engraving. And he had to have that relationship with his accountant where he could phone the accountant up and say, look, if I make this purchase, what does that do?
Yes.
Actually, if your bookkeeping and your numbers aren't there and they're not up to date, you can't do that. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
Now, what Peter could have done with kind of the technology, how it's moved on now, and I mean, that was probably 4 years ago. So, very much in the kind of nascent days of Xero and kind of, probably around the same time that we as Futrli were born.
Yeah.
Actually, what Peter could have done then was go into an app like Futrli and put his numbers in and kind of run those forecasts whilst he was there. And he could actually see exactly what effect that was had and make that decision. And when you're doing things at auction, especially, you've got to be able to have that nimbleness to buy something. Yep.
No, I've been to auctions many a time, and I know in an instant you've either bought it or you haven't, and it's
and it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I would never, blimey, I worry when I buy something for £5 on eBay. If it's the right time of the month to buy it, so let alone buying £150,000 engraving machine. But do you know what? He was a business that during the recession and 2008 onwards was, he made a decision to invest heavily, and he did that. And because of that investment, he quickly managed to dominate his market space and move out. And that was really important for him, because he was like, well, actually, look, I'm not going to be that business that sits there and does nothing. I'm going to be that business that invests and gets ready for when that moves forward. And he did, and he was very successful because of it.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of what you're seeing when you're working with firms, Phil, how quickly are you seeing that the firms that do adopt technology are able to develop the advisory services? And we can sit here all day and discuss what is an advisory service, but in terms of going beyond here's the accounts and here's your tax bill, to something that is actually meaningful and can change the prospects of that business in whatever shape that may take, how do you see the key difference as a result of adopting technology in the first place?
Okay, so that's a really good question. It depends hugely on the firm. Obviously, we deal with everything from kind of little, kind of bespoke and boutique accountancy firms, right the way up to the Menzies and the Deloittes and the Taylor Coxes of the world. So we see that whole swathe. And for me, what I tend to see is the bigger firms take are a lot more thoughtful on the process, so it can take a lot longer. So they'll come in very slowly, and they've got the resources to do it, but they'll come in very slowly. They've got less clients on the cloud in general, and they're still moving away from that traditional quarterly accounting basis. So that's your juggernaut of trying to change that, and it can take a while to implement that. Where I see kind of the best adoption is at the kind of the smaller firm, Because actually what you see there is someone that where decisions can be made quickly, and actually you can change the business model really quickly and start developing it. And you've got a much more loyal and quite often technologically advanced client base that actually take this on board very quickly. Xero recently did a roadshow in Sydney, and they had some really interesting statistics. But they were saying that kind of in terms of the benefit of this, they said that an advisor who uses connected apps globally are increasing profits for their clients on average by 26%. So there's a real market value for actually utilizing these apps with your clients. But actually, in terms of integration, it's a lot slower the bigger you are. So when you've got a small firm that are hungry to set themselves out from the bigger firms out there, they can be quite quick, and they can go from taking on Futrli to having 20 or 30 clients on board and start delivering kind of basic dashboards within 1 to 2 weeks. Yeah. So they're moving like that and changing very quickly, whereas some of the bigger firms are actually taking on longer to move across. Now, obviously, there's different challenges at both firms and different opportunities. But for me, it really does depend on the firm itself. And the client base they have. I mean, obviously, if you've got 150 farmers that are still delivering their receipts in a shoebox every month, that could be a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah. No, I get that. But I think, it's very interesting that you say that. In terms of that, then, what I would say, do you think that the smaller, perhaps niche operators they're almost like the technology advisor? Whereas for the larger firms, they perhaps have larger clients who have their own sort of, because of the size of their clients, perhaps are not able to, one, use the technology as quickly, but equally have people with their own views because they have their own in-house technology people.
Absolutely. I think it depends heavily on who your clients are. So, probably one of the things, I guess, why Futrli was born was a business owner who needed forecasting and reporting, because actually they needed to make some decisions about where their business was going, and that wasn't available in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So when you are that kind of, mid-size, smaller SMB business, what we have is so crucial, and what technology offers is so crucial to helping that business run more efficiently. When there's 5 or 6 of you in a business, there's 1 or 2 directors or 1 director, and you're balancing running the business, and you're balancing the accounts, and you're balancing the FD role, and you're balancing the HR role.
Yeah,
technology is a massive benefit, because actually, even in time saved, it's you've got. If you can save a business owner an hour a week, that's an hour they can then use for something else. So I definitely think technology is far easier to adapt and adopt in both in smaller practices, and then conversely in smaller businesses that they're dealing with. We work very well in that sector of kind of sub 2 to 3 million. Now, we've got clients on board with Futrli that are up to 20+ million. Turnover, but actually in that kind of sub 2 million turnover, the agility that we offer and apps offer is really important.
Yeah, no. And I mean, it's interesting what you say about the advisory piece. For people that have heard me before, they'll know this story. But I only became an accountant because of the guy who looked after my parents' business, and I just think in the cloud world he'd have absolutely loved it, because the access to data would have just made his life so much easier. I mean, he did it a lot on gut instinct, and I think the key to all of these tools it's the people that use it have the right training, both professionally but also in terms of actually using the technology. I mean, I know you as a firm do stuff to make sure the firms that do use your products get the most out of it. Do you think that's a key part in that as well?
Yeah, I do. I think training is so crucial. So obviously I'm not an accountant. I don't come from an accountancy background, but I'm a business owner. So when I came to Futrli, I went through the same training that one of our accountancy partners would do. So our certification program, and our certification program is kind of a load of different modules set across different areas, which give you the ability to be an expert on the product. Now, we break it down in a really simple and efficient way that you can dip in and dip out. You can do a module here, you can do a module there. But that training is so important, because without it, what you've got is a really nice piece of software that's going to take you potentially a few weeks to learn and be an expert on. With the training, and then giving someone an online training where they can do it when they want and they can dip in and dip out when they want, actually gives you the ability to be an expert much quicker. And when you're dealing with smaller practices where they want to see that return,
yeah.
because that's what we're doing it for ultimately. A business is taking on Futrli to help them make better decisions, but an accountancy firm is taking on Futrli to help give their clients more, but also to see revenue increase. So without that, the training, getting up to speed faster is far more important.
Okay. And I mean, just to move things along a little bit, in terms of the monetizing of those services, I mean, do you see, is it partly upgrading the service that they're offering? What is it that you see as being the difference between the old way of working and the new way, bringing in tools such as your own?
Yeah, so the old way's been very much, I think, reactive. So it's about being reactive to when a client comes to you. So they come to you and you'll do your monthly or historically quarterly or even annual returns. And that relationship is exactly that. It's totally reactive. What technology enables you to do is be far more proactive. So it enables you to be able to kind of go to your client with a view of what you can offer to change that business. So, for example, with Futrli, we offer a part of our product called Alerts. Now, I look at this as kind of like a Fitbit for business. So it enables you to track what your clients are doing and how they're performing, and completely bespoke it to the KPIs that are relevant to that business. Now, as an accountant, as an advisor, that gives you the opportunity to pick up the phone. So rather than waiting for your client to come to you after 6 months or a year and kind of just deliver them their end of year figures or end of quarter figures, what you can do is actually pick up the phone and say, look, I've noted you've had a massive payment going to your account. Do you have any plans for that? I can make some introductions out to financial services, for example. Or, I've noticed there's been a massive drop in revenue recently. Do we now need to kind of have a look at any forecasts that we've built for you? So there's a real opportunity to move the service from reactive to proactive. And that's what a lot of businesses are looking for. They're looking now for their accountants to do more than just deliver the numbers once a year. They're looking for that relationship to be far more two-way and to enable them to have that data and information when they need it.
And so in terms of the pricing of that service, then, is it something that you see firms offering it initially for free, or do you see them actually going through and agreeing with their clients how they're going to provide that service, what they're going to get? Is it a monthly call, a quarterly call, 6 monthly health check? How is it that instead of, say, let's paying £3,000 a year, they're now paying £5,000 a year? I'm just throwing those numbers out there, but
so yeah, it's an interesting question. How do you price? Part of what we do in certification is kind of talk you through different pricing methodologies, because actually I think the worst thing you can do is go out and sell software to your client. The worst thing you can do is say, look, my license with X company is costing me £20 per client a month. So I'm going to go out and charge that at £25 to my client, and enable them to then have that service. Because actually that hugely undervalues what you do, and what you end up doing is just reselling software. And actually, you know, we do that. We're the ones presenting software. What you're doing is selling your service. So there's a couple of different, I think there's a couple of different ways you can price. Yeah, absolutely. You can set up different value offerings. So you can look at what you're doing and the services you offer within that, and then how you price that out. I think another method to do it is almost, and to use a kind of a very appy term, or a very modern appy term, is that freemium pricing, where there's a degree of, you have X service for no charge. So we might give you a basic dashboard that updates once every 3 months, and that gives you an overview of how your business is performing, and that might have a forecast cash flow, or it might have just a running total of what you did versus last year, for example. But actually, on top of that, you can then add services. You can add weekly alerts, or you can add daily alerts. On top of that, you could add more detailed dashboards. On top of that, you could add more detailed management reporting. So actually, there's the ability to adopt that freemium model, where, yeah, absolutely, you give part of that service away, but actually that will then bring back business to you to actually increase the revenue that you're having. And there is a marketable revenue increase with these services. Again, kind of going back to a report Xero did recently, where they noted that where advisory services were offered, or these enhanced services were offered, part of that is cash flow forecasting and reporting, they were seeing an increase of 66% in the fees charged. That's quite a significant number if you look at it over 20 or 30 clients. If you look at it over 100, 200 clients, that's an even more significant number.
Yeah.
So the clients want these services. They want more from the people they're dealing with. I think it's a bit of a misnomer to say that my clients won't pay for it. I think they won't pay for it if they don't know the benefits of what they're getting. Yeah,
and I guess that is a challenge, and that we see in lots. I mean, we hear lots of stories about firms that perhaps in other parts of the world where cloud adoption happened much earlier, that the price of compliance went down, and it's exactly as you say, because they weren't able to demonstrate the value that cloud was adding, certainly in the early days of cloud, because all it did was make things more efficient as a consequence.
Yeah. I guess there's always a couple of different ways of looking at things. Obviously, you can look at what you charge and how you charge and the value around that. And I think, we don't always buy the cheapest things in life. We don't always go to the cheapest clothing manufacturer or clothing shop to buy our clothes. We don't always go on the cheapest Netflix tier for our TV subscriptions. I certainly don't. I buy things based on the value they offer for me. And I just think that's a huge part. But actually, there's value in time saving as well. If I can do something with software like, I don't know, like an auto enter or a receipt bank or Futrli, for example, and that can save me an hour per client a month, then actually you wrap that up to 20 clients, you're saving 20 hours per client per month. Actually, that saving there is significant, and that sees a return in another way as well. And I think technology especially is a twofold. It's helping increase the services we offer to our clients, but it's also helping us save time and thus have more time for our clients, or actually have more time to take on better clients.
Okay. I mean, that brings us on to a question from the audience about where they've, say, got clients who pay on average £120 a month, and then adding on a Futrli costs, that how can they justify using a product like yours to help them deliver service?
It's a question we hear. It's a question we hear a lot. And for me, it's about building that value. It's about not just going out to someone and saying, I'm going to offer, I'm going to offer you Futrli for £20 a month, because it doesn't mean very much.
Yep.
But actually, it's finding out what that client needs and then tailoring that service to them. Clients will pay for more. Not every client, don't get me wrong. You know, there are clients that are incredibly value conscious and won't, but clients will pay for more. And part of what we do is talk to our accountants, talk to our accounting partners through this, and talk about the services they want to offer and the services that they're going to offer. And I think also there's a degree of looking at your client base. I've had accountants say to me that, you know, we are going to onboard Futrli, and it's going to help me move away from some of the clients I have. And if those clients are not willing to move into the cloud, those clients aren't willing to adopt some of these services, then actually I'm going to go out there and present the services I want to offer to actually get the clients I want to have on board on. I've got one firm recently that's trying, that historically has been contractors. And there's very little money in that. And, you know, services like Futrli, forecasting and reporting for a contractor is not hugely relevant. But what they're doing is they've adopted Futrli to move away from that, to enable them to bring on a different type of client. And actually, she's selling her entire contractor client base to another firm, because she realizes that the margins are so low and that the work is so high that actually to be profitable on it is going to be very difficult.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. That I guess it's not something that you can immediately move to if you've got staff to pay and bills to pay. So
absolutely, it's about finding which clients are relevant. It's relevant for and what clients want. There's an interesting internal statistic, and I don't want to be the guy that comes on and talks through every statistic known to mankind, but I think statistics are interesting. We went out to so we've got two channels. We've got a business owner channel and we've got our accounting partner channel. We went out to our business owner channel and said, well, you know, why are you using Futrli as a business owner? It's a very different proposition here. There's no account management, which is part of what makes our accountancy partners really work.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? And out of those that came back to us, and it was a lot, 85% said that it was because their accountants had never spoken to them about forecasting and reporting. Wow. So I think there's a danger in assuming our client base won't want the services that we offer, when actually we're hearing back from a lot of our direct business owner users that those are just not being discussed with them. So I think there's an interesting balance, and something like Futrli or any cloud software gives us an opportunity to go back out to our clients and find out what they really want. And from there, actually, I think we'll be surprised how much people are willing to pay for a service when they understand the benefit it can have to them.
Okay, and in terms of those KPIs, that every business is slightly different. A retail store will be different to a legal firm. How easy is it now in the new world of actually getting access to data, some of which is financial, and clearly it's the area in which we work. You know, we do processing for firms and we can help them on that. But how easy is it to integrate non-financial data into that reporting?
So yeah, non-financial data is so overlooked. I've got clients that are restaurant owners, and yeah, Hannah, who is our CEO and founder, she ran a gastropub business, and she built Futrli because, you know, of that non-financial element as well as the financial element. She wanted to see how that impacted the business. So non-financial data is crucial, and I think financial data only tells part of the story. Now with Futrli, and I can't speak for other software out there, but with Futrli it's really easy. You can bring non-financial data in, and you can forecast by non-financial data. So you could forecast by customer numbers and say, look, what's going to happen if over the next year we increase by 10%?
Yep.
What would happen over the next year if we decrease our customer numbers by 10%? Now, this is incredibly relevant in the food and restaurant industry now, and in the retail industry now, because those industries are seeing a massive dent in customer numbers and footfall, and being able to forecast what effect that can have is ginormous. So we've got a way that you can do that within Futrli, and I think it's really crucial to nail that side as well, because that's what gives you a true sense of what the business is doing, and that's what gives you a true sense of what the future of the business is. Okay,
and another question from the audience: can Futrli be used in helping to prepare business plans? How easy is it to do that?
Yeah, well, you're probably better to talk about this than me, to be fair. But as being someone at the sharp end,
I personally don't use Futrli or any of the add-ons, because we mainly work at the processing end. But it's really understanding in terms of that, because certainly when I've been in practice and helped develop business plans, it's often been the what-if scenarios, that if we increase sales by 10%, if we increase our or reduce our prices by 10%, what impact does that have, one, on profitability, etc. And equally, if we increased our staff costs by X%, and you talked about the food industry at the minute, the minimum wage, had somebody said to them, well, actually the minimum wage is going to go to X, how's that going to impact on the profitability or the pricing that you then have to have within the business? Is that something that you would be able to use Futrli to do, so that when you are putting that business plan in front of financiers, that you're able to have that conversation?
That's kind of the core functionality at the heart of what we do. Because how can you have any forecast for a business if you don't include assumptions and what is?
Yeah.
How can you have any view of what, a future for a business is never linear. It's a look at different options. It's a look at different assumptions and scenarios, and we grow businesses by that. But no, in answer to the question, 100%. It's one of the key things that Futrli is used for, is that. One of the things that caught people out a lot this year was the pension contribution increase.
Yeah.
So I think pension contributions went from 1% to 3%. Now, if you've got 50, 60 staff like we have here now,
yeah, that's
a considerable increase in costs.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of businesses didn't factor that in. Now, you roll that up and you've got 200, 300, 400 employees. That's massive.
Yeah.
So, no, that's core functionality of what we do. And I think personally that, if you don't have that, that functionality, then you're not really a true forecasting or reporting tool.
And in terms of that, then, if before you kind of carry on, the one thing that I always found when reviewing forecasts or preparing forecasts is you kind of had this, right, debtor days are X, payment days are Y, and you put that in, but how close that was to reality was always a debatable point on the review. Does Futrli take, right, on average, customers are paying you in so many days, and that's how the forecasts are run, or is it again something that you have to populate?
No, so effectively yes. You can. The great thing with Futrli is you can even go down to payment days, so you can do split payments on payments if you've got something coming in. We've got, as the app has evolved, we've focused more and more and taken feedback more and more on the invoicing side of things, and actually we've got some developments coming in the near future which are going to increase the relevance of that even further. Now, I can't talk about that in
yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
But we know that actually that's core. So we want to improve what we do around that and increase what we do around that as well. And actually, because we know that really does drive those business decisions even more crucially. But no, Futrli handles all that really, really well at the moment. And again, it's core functionality to be able to have those conversations around how long are you taking to get paid. And part of our KPIs around that as well. You can for us, you can build bespoke KPIs. So you can build KPIs around kind of anything you want and really make it relevant to the business. Because actually, for me, and going back to a lot of the points we've raised today, I think we have to. We respect here at Futrli that no business is the same. So our tool is there to enable you to build KPIs that are relevant to every business that you have, and not just give them a generic 30-page report each month that says, actually, you know, when I was a business owner, for example, I used to get my generic report every 6 months. I wouldn't really look at it, to be honest, because it didn't really mean very much to me. It was a wall of numbers. Yeah. I can now get a report that's completely bespoke to the KPIs that are driving my business. So be that customer numbers, be that debtor days, be that anything really, because actually then I can make, going back to what we said at the beginning, I can make those decisions that are really relevant to my business.
Excellent, excellent. So, and in broad terms then, you know, and we talked about some statistics, and I guess that what people are interested in is, as a consequence of using Futrli or technology generally, I mean, you talked about, what was it, 66% on average?
Yes, so on average, client fees are 66% higher where business advisory is offered. That came from the Accounting and Bookkeeping Industry Performance Report 2018 by Xero. Fantastic.
So, you know, so for those firms that aren't sort of using technology at the moment, I guess the answer is about, you know, one, using technology, and two, a question itself coming through now is about offering bookkeeping as part of that service to enable that data to be live.
Yeah, so we handle data, again, and it comes back to that bespoke and that kind of individual client need, but we handle data in such a way that actually you can account for if you've got daily bookkeeping, you can account for if you've got weekly bookkeeping, monthly or quarterly. So you can bespoke the reporting within Futrli, yeah, to be relevant to the bookkeeping within whatever package and software. Yeah, sure. So, and for that, and because of that, that actually means that, you know, even if the data isn't as where you want it to be, yeah, you kind of can almost leverage what you can get out of Futrli to actually work backwards and say, look, at the moment we're giving you this data monthly because that's when your bookkeeping is up to date. Yeah. But actually, if you can get your bookkeeping done on a weekly basis, we can then bring this reporting to weekly. Yeah. If you get it done on a daily basis, we could bring this reporting to next day. Yeah. So bookkeeping is fundamental to making sure that the data's right. But actually, we enable you to correct that. And obviously, because it's a live connection with things like with things like Xero and QuickBooks, yeah, you can pull through data automatically. So even if there's back posting and things like that, it will automatically carry through and update everything automatically.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, as good as the product may be, if coming back to a comment that you made early on in this webinar, you know, rubbish in, rubbish out, and that's always going to be the challenge. If you've got 100 unreconciled items, well, you're not seeing the full picture or the true picture.
Absolutely, and it's so important. But again, I think technology, like you know, you've got technology apps like Receipt Bank and Auto Entry, and you've got things like that really do help with the bookkeeping side of things. Yeah. That enable you to have those receipts in immediately. I love it. I love the fact I can scan a receipt on my app and then I can just throw the receipt away and I don't have to keep them.
I've seen several people do that in front of me, my very eyes. They're at the restaurant or at the bar and they go click. Yeah, and it's done. And that makes the bookkeeper's life a lot easier because that data is already in there. And then, you know, you've got that lovely piece in the middle with what, you know, a cloud product like a Xero or a QuickBooks. Yeah.
Then,
Absolutely. And certainly, and I know we're not here to necessarily talk about what we do, but where we have been helping firms is actually making that bookkeeping, using the likes of auto entry and receipt bank with the cloud products to just make that one delivered timely and have that human intervention that goes through and does check that everything that should be reconciled has been. So great.
So I was just going to say, and it comes back to time saving as well.
Yeah.
It's very hard to keep bookkeeping up to date if the receipts aren't there, or if the invoices aren't there, or if that date's not there. And this is why I think you have that beautiful end-to-end of a data capture at the beginning, a cloud-based software in the middle, and then a piece of software like Futrli at the end, because that gives you this amazing end-to-end of kind of info in, processing, and data out.
Yeah. And then I guess this is, the slide that I've had on the screen for most of this webinar about not being analog, but being digital. And that is an absolutely key part of delivering really, forward-looking accountancy services. I don't know about you, but when I was in practice, the only thing that I never had a problem sending a bill where a client could genuinely see the value in what we provided as a firm. But, sending a set of accounts out on Concra paper was not going to allow you to raise the bill.
That's so true. That's so true. And it's about the value. Now, the analog bit's important though, because I see in that analogy, I see us as the analog piece. So the digital and the technology enables us to actually still keep that relationship. And if anything, rather than digital and technology taking away that relationship, what it does, it takes away the blockers.
Yes.
It takes away all the things that get in the way of us delivering the service that we want to deliver to the service. Because I doubt many people get into business or into practice or into anything to sit in front of a computer and push buttons. We enjoy that interaction with the customer. I used to love, when I was in banking, seeing someone that I'd done a loan for come back and pay that loan off early because it has been successful in their business, or come to us to buy a brand new piece of machinery because the last one was so successful. It's that human interaction is key, and that's the bit that sits at the heart of this.
Yeah.
And that's why the technology is important, but actually it needs to be technology that enables better and continued and enhanced interaction, because we should never ever lose that piece. Because I think technology will enable, or does enable, accountants to be advisors and give their knowledge and experience back to the customer on a much personal way.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, improved conversations. I know we're coming up to the end of our time, but for the audience, if you've got any more questions, please put them in the box. So we'll aim to kind of finish sort of on or about 11:30, which was kind of about our allotted time. So yeah, absolutely. The conversation piece, and I guess this is where the stickiness comes. That, what, I love my accountant because he talks to me every month, and he tells me stuff that I wouldn't otherwise be able to get access to. I mean,
it's huge. I mean, that's why I think people leave whatever. So whatever service it is, being an accountant or your mobile phone provider or mechanic or whatever, we leave because we don't have that relationship. And if you're just throwing something over to someone on an email once every 6 months or once every year, that's not a relationship. That's not something that's gonna stick or Velcro to you to that client. What will happen is someone down the road will offer that service cheaper, and you'll go, actually, I can get that cheaper down there. It's a very vanilla service. It's actually being able to offer dashboards or reporting or alerts or automatic receipts or whatever it is that actually gives you that stickiness to the client and actually enables them, gives them a reason to stay with you and enhance that relationship?
Yeah, it's about bespoke service, and it's interesting you know, some of the comments you just made. I spent the summer in my family accountant's office as a 17-year-old, and the senior partner there, he said to me, clients may tell you they've left because of the price, but it's usually the level of service hasn't been what they've wanted. So, you know, it's absolutely clear to me that, you know, the better you can make that service, the better the conversations that you can have, the easier it is to, one, keep the client, but most importantly, longer term, raise the level of fees that you're able to, you know, you're able to sell them more services. I mean, that's ultimately how you raise your fees. You know, and if it's the same as what you did last year, well, why should the client stay with you? Unless that's all they want. You know, there will be some clients who only want that, and, you know, and that may be right for them. But most business people I know want to grow their businesses and need the information to enable them to do that.
Yeah, it always baffles me when I'm told that I've got my clients don't want to grow their business. You kind of think, when I had my business, it was about making it as successful as I possibly could. And back then there was no technology to enable me to do that. You know, I wanted to be successful. I just didn't have the tools to do it. I didn't have the knowledge of how to do it. But now those tools are there, and there are people out there with so much knowledge to give. You know, I think the majority of business owners do want to grow their business. I think a lot of them just don't know how, and some of them just don't want to ask.
But do you think that's because they're scared of the cost, and they see it as a cost rather than the value that they're necessarily able to add, the accountancy firm?
I absolutely think that, and again, going back to kind of some points I've made throughout, I think this is where the opportunity for smaller and more niche and boutique firms stands, is that actually you can deliver that personal service, and you can deliver that without the massive overheads and without the massive IT department and cloud outsourcing specialists and 42 partners, which means that actually you know, you do have to deliver an expensive service regardless of what you offer. I think that there's a huge opportunity out there for those smaller firms to be able to pick up tools, go out and offer advice and enhanced services, but at a cost that does reflect the value. And you know, we see it a lot where a lot of businesses are moving away from impersonal service to those more boutique firms. I think it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of we're coming up to the last few minutes, Phil, do you want to just kind of let people know how they can get in touch with you, and, you know, what would be the process that, you know, you would go through with a firm that's interested in talking to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, the process is we like to do one-to-one webinars. We like to show you the product, because we have a product that's very good to look at, but actually is really lovely to use. So for us, it's make contact with us. We'll arrange a time to go for a 15-20-minute webinar to talk you through, I guess, find out about your practice, find out about what you're looking to achieve, and then show you how you can do that with Futrli. So again, making it really bespoke to every firm and noting that you've got different clients and different things you're trying to achieve. Now, to do that, you can visit www.futrli.com, and you can go on there and you can book a webinar, and you can book directly into one of my team's diaries. And now, regardless of where you are in the world, we have different time zones to accommodate. If you want to talk to me directly, I'm on LinkedIn, Phil Hobden, unsurprisingly. I'm on Twitter at @dashboardphil. I think it's _Phil actually. And you can email me at phil.hobden @futrli.com. And we'd be really happy to show you what Futrli can do and talk you through the pricing, talk you through every element of it, so you can kind of see how this can work within your business. And we've got some really great, knowledgeable people here that can give you that look at what we can offer and apply that to what you want to do and what you are doing.
Great. Fantastic. No, that's really, really appreciated. I'm sure the audience appreciate the fact that you've given up an hour of your morning today, and you know, by all means, get in touch with Phil and the Futrli team. In terms of, for us, we'll be putting on the website shortly our next webinar. But thank you very much for attending. For those that don't know who we are and what we do, you know, we're there as an enabler. We genuinely use technology to help drive efficiency within your practice and actually provide those numbers reliably to support all these types of services. But that's kind of really all I had to say. Once again, thank you so much, Phil, and we'll, you know, thanks again, and see you next time.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.